Well, g'day guys, welcome back for another one. Today we're going to be looking at the TOYO MT Open Countries. I've fitted to the Land Cruiser. They've done 40,000 kilometers. Let's get straight in. These TOYO MTs have a very good reputation and have been around for quite a while. I ran a set of these on my older Land Cruiser, never had a drama, never had a flat tyre. That's why I chose to go back to them. Now, I paid somewhere in the neighbourhood about $540 for these, I reckon. Pricing's a funny thing with tyres, as you guys know. It really varies from store to store and where you live, what town you're in, that sort of stuff. So it's probably not really accurate to go off. Now, this is a bit of a funny one. As most of you guys would know, I'm running a different offset rim on the rear, which means that I haven't been rotating these tyres. So I've done 50,000 kilometers with the vehicle. These tyres got fitted at about 10,000 Ks to the standard rims. At 20,000 Ks, I got these Steelies, which I got the tyres rotated then. So they have been rotated once in the 40,000 kilometers. They are wearing extremely well. For no rotation, obviously that's a big no-no. So since that first rotation, the fronts have stayed on the front, the rears have stayed on the rear. The spare tyre has stayed there. It hasn't been on the vehicle driving at all. They've worn very well. Land Cruisers usually flog out the rear tyres first. That's always been in my experience, just because of the weight and I guess the drive and whatever, especially being out bush. So the fronts still have a lot of meat on them. They could go for a lot longer. The rears are a bit more worn down, but there's still meat on them. There's probably, I would say, at least 20,000 still on them. So for mud-terrain tyres that have done 40,000 kilometers with one rotation, they are doing extremely well. They are a bloody good tyre. So, as I said earlier on, I first ran these on the standard GXL wheels, which was a mistake and I shouldn't have done it. The standard GXL wheels are 7 inches wide. I've since gone to an 8-inch wide rim. So 7 inches is technically too narrow for a 285 75/16 to be fitted to. You can do it. I've done it before. I did it with these. I've seen people fit 35s to standard rims. You're not supposed to do it. You shouldn't do it. You can do it and it will work. So as far as punctures are concerned, I put stakes through the rear right tyre sidewall twice, so 2 stakes within a few thousand kilometers when these were on the standard GXL wheels. Too narrow. So when you mount a tyre on a rim that's a little bit too narrow, the sidewalls tend to bulge out too much in the wrong area and you pick up stakes. So I learnt my lesson. I changed to these rims and no punctures in that 40,000 kilometers. As I also said earlier, I had a set of these on my old Cruiser, which I did 40,000 Ks on them, no punctures. So across 80,000 kilometers, 2 sets of these, no punctures at all. They are an extremely reliable tyre for punctures. They have a very strong sidewall. So with a 10-ply tread and a 3-ply sidewall, that's what makes them so strong in regards to punctures. How do they handle on the road? What are their characteristics and are they rough? Look, because they're a mud terrain with a 3-ply sidewall, you know, tyres like that are always going to be stiff. That's the trade-off. They're also an E-rated tyre, an E load rating, so they are rather stiff. But that's the trade-off you get. The ability that they bring out in the bush, they really come into their own. I don't really worry about the stiffness because they offer such good puncture resistance. Obviously, you can play around with your pressures, which you probably should be doing anyway when you hit the dirt. I'm not going to tell you what you should be running. That's up to you to work out. I usually run anywhere between 25 to 35 PSI. That's the general pressures I run when I'm out bush. Obviously, it changes with deep sand and all that sort of stuff, but just your general dirt pressures, usually between 25 and 35. I don't have any complaints with these on the bitumen. I've driven them in the wet. Look, I don't drive around like Speedy Gonzalez, so I've never had dramas. They're a good tyre. They seem to be grippy. They're good. Because I trust these Toyos so much, and I've got history with them, and I know they're a good tyre. I've never had failures. Look, these days, tyres, most tyres in general are good. They're reliable. I've got a plug kit and a compressor. 9 times out of 10, if I do get a flat, which is rare, it's in a sidewall, I plug it, and away I go. I used to always carry 2 spares. In my opinion, it's just not necessary. I didn't buy a 5th Toyo. This is a cheap Renegade brand tyre. I think it was like $250. It's brand new. It's sat in there ever since. I've never pulled it out. I've never used it. Look, one of the main downsides of going to a tyre like this is the weight. They are a pretty heavy tyre, coming in at about 29.2 kilograms, according to the Toyo data sheet for the mud terrain. So, look, that doesn't sound too bad when you compare these to like 35s, these being a 33-inch tyre. But the standard tyres that come off it from the factory are about 25 kilos, I believe. So you're adding about 20 kilos to the overall weight of the car and the rolling resistance and that sort of thing. Going from the standard tyres to these tyres, I did feel a change in the vehicle straight away. But obviously there's also a difference in how it drives because you've changed the tyre size, which essentially changes the gearing. Now, the big question that's always on everyone's lips, how noisy are these tyres? Everyone always wants to know how noisy tyres are. Look, obviously as soon as you go to a mud terrain, you're going to that aggressive tread pattern. There's big spaces between the tread blocks. They're aggressive. They're going to be noisy on the bitumen. Yes, some are noisier than others. I don't really worry about it. Look, there's 2 reasons you go with a tyre like this. It's either straight up for looks, you're just driving around the city, driving around town. Some people don't even go out bush. Or it's because you need a rugged, reliable tyre for out bush that has lots of grip and is puncture resistant. Yes, they look good, but that's mainly why I go for them, because they're so reliable out bush. As they wear, they've got noisier, I reckon. Again, they are noisy, don't get me wrong, they're a mud terrain. It doesn't really bother me. They serve a purpose. There's always going to be that trade-off. So if you are someone that's looking for a good, rugged, reliable off-road tyre for the bush, but you don't really want to go all the way to a mud terrain for the noise, there is a lot of good all-terrains out on the market now, and there's a lot of hybrid all-terrains on the market, which are kind of in between an all-terrain and a mud terrain. They look good. They've got a bit more of an aggressive tread pattern than a standard all-terrain, but a bit less than a mud terrain. In theory, they should be less noisy, and they should also use less fuel. That's another downside with going to a tyre like this. As soon as you go to something like this that's obviously heavier but the tread pattern's more aggressive, you're going to start using more fuel, and that's just the way it is. I mean, you've really got to weigh that up, because yes, you use a bit more fuel, but in my experience anyway, the amount of money and stress and hassle you save going to a tyre like this, just purely for punctures. I've ran like all-terrains before, like weak all-terrains, and I've had plugs in every single tyre before 20,000 Ks. In my opinion, they are definitely worth the money. So what's the verdict, and would I recommend these tyres? Who would I recommend them for? Look, I personally give these tyres a 10 out of 10 rating. That's not talking about noise or anything. That's purely, are they functional? Because of how they perform off-road and how rugged, robust and reliable they are. They're a tyre you can put on and drive and just forget about. I'm not saying they're invincible. Obviously you can get punctures with these. I never have. They are a good tyre. So who would they suit? Look, obviously, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you're doing a lot of bush work, a lot of bush driving, you're out remote, that sort of thing, I would 100% give these tyres a go. There's nowhere I've really struggled with them. Like I said, if you're going to be in the sand or anything like that, just play with your tyre pressures. You can go very low to get yourself out of tricky situations. There's no doubt about it. Look, if you're looking for a tyre that just looks good, these are it as well. Well, I reckon that'll do it. Thanks very much for watching. You guys take it easy.